White House under renovation. Is Trump betting on legacy or ostentation? They say power reveals who we are, but what if it also decorated the walls around us? When Donald Trump announced his retirement from the White House, the world was divided. Was it a patriotic act or a vanity show? The man who always turned business into shows and controversies into headlines is now tampering with the greatest political symbol on the planet. And amidst golden columns and red carpets, a question arises that no one can silence. What, ultimately, does Trump want to rebuild? The country or his own image? Some see him as a visionary, attempting to leave his physical and symbolic mark on American history. Others see only an inflated ego, dressed as an architect of power. The irony is that both may be right, because Trump never played the game of politics like the others. He reinvented it in his own way, with spotlights, headlines, and a good dose of provocation. His White House is not just a presidential residence, it's a stage. And on that stage, every detail screams something about leadership, greatness, and perhaps insecurity. But behind the stained glass windows and speeches, there is something deeper. The attempt to immortalize a narrative. It's not just about beauty, but about meaning. And what's at stake may be much greater than a renovation project. It may be how history will remember one of the most polarizing presidents of the century. After all, between legacy and ostentation, the line is as thin as the gleam of the gold he so admires. The announcement of the reform and its immediate impact. When Donald Trump announced the White House renovations, the world paused for a few seconds. The news spread like wildfire, dividing opinions both inside and outside the United States. Some saw the decision as a courageous gesture, a move by someone who wants to leave their mark on history. Others, as pure showmanship. After all, tampering with the White House is almost like touching a temple, something sacred to Americans, laden with memories and power. And it was precisely this clash between tradition and modernity that ignited the debate. The corridors of Washington were filled with rumors and speculation. There was talk about the cost, the real reason, and even the symbolism behind the decision. Trump, true to his provocative style, did not shy away from criticism. On the contrary, he used it as fuel. In a fiery speech, he said that the White House needs to reflect the greatness of a nation that has once again begun to dream big. It was a simple phrase, but loaded with intentions, political, aesthetic, and personal. For many, this renovation isn't just about walls and chandeliers, but about narrative. Trump knows better than anyone that power isn't just about the office, but about the image the world builds of him. And, deep down, perhaps the real goal was never just to restore a house, but to rebuild a perception. Because when it comes to Trump, nothing is quite what it seems, and this may only be the first step in something much bigger. The Trump style, luxury, power, and image. From his days as a real estate mogul in New York, Trump has always made luxury an extension of his own identity. Marble, gold, red carpets, and glittering chandeliers. Every detail seemed to scream power and success. For him, aesthetics are strategy. The glitz is not mere whim. It's a message. I've arrived. I've won. I'm in charge here. And by bringing this style to the White House, Trump is not just decorating a palace. He is imposing a visual code that reflects his vision of leadership. Grandiose, provocative, and impossible to ignore. While many presidents sought sobriety as a way to respect the institution, Trump did the opposite. He transformed the symbol of American democracy into a stage for his personal brand. Each renovated space seemed to echo his campaign slogan, "Make America Great." Again, but this time, not through politics, but through gilded mirrors and imposing columns. And, like it or not, the impact is undeniable. Where there is glitter, there is gaze. Where there is gaze, there is influence. This contrast between tradition and ostentation is what sparks curiosity and controversy. Because, Deep down, Trump understands the power of image like few politicians. He knows that the modern voter doesn't just read speeches. This, and what you see communicates more than 1,000 words. Perhaps then, the true objective is not the beauty of the walls, but the perpetuation of the brand itself. After all, whoever controls the aesthetics controls the narrative, and Trump has always played this game masterfully. Politics or vanity? The fine line. There is an almost invisible line between leaving a legacy and feeding one's own ego, and Trump seems to walk precisely on it. To his supporters, he is the man who dares to rewrite American history with his own signature. To his critics, a showman obsessed with immortalizing his reflection in the windows of the White House. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Trump is a strategist who understands the symbolic value of every gesture. He knows that, in modern politics, appearance and narrative are weapons as powerful as laws and decrees. Historically, great leaders have used monumental constructions to mark their governments. Napoleon erected arches, Kennedy, the space race, and Trump, his golden reform. Each, in their own way, built a mirror of their own era and their own ego. But in Trump's case, the spectacle is part of the message. He transforms every decision into a theatrical act, where the audience, divided between applause and boos, keeps their eyes fixed on the stage. And that, in politics, is pure gold. Perhaps the big question isn't whether retirement is vanity, but what it reveals about the times we live in. An era where leaders are judged more by their image than their ideas, and where power is measured in likes, not consensus. In this game of perceptions, Trump moves with the precision of a maestro, and as the spectacle unfolds, it becomes difficult to know where the leader ends and the character begins, or if, in the end, they were always the same person. The cost and the controversies. When the first figures began to circulate, the debate exploded. Billion-dollar estimates, secret contracts, and suppliers linked to former political allies turned the White House renovation into a feast for the opposition. While the government defended the project as an investment in preserving history, critics saw it as wasteful, vain, and opportunistic. The question echoing through the corridors of Washington was simple. Who pays this bill? The state or ego? Trump, with his direct and provocative style, responded bluntly, "It's not an expense, it's added value to the nation." The phrase became headline news and fueled social media. Some applauded him for valuing the country's ultimate symbol, while others accused him of using public money to enhance his own image. The contrast was evident. While part of the population faced economic challenges, the seat of power was undergoing a luxurious makeover, a gesture that, for some, inspires patriotism, for others reveals a disconnect. But Trump has never been one to shy away from controversy. He uses it as part of the show. And, in a way, this media storm works in his favor. Each criticism generates more attention. Each scandal, more space. It's the old principle of political marketing. Bad-mouthing is still bad-mouthing. And while the discussion spreads, his name remains center stage. Perhaps the real cost of the reform isn't in the budget, but in how it reshapes, for better or for worse, the world's perception of leadership, power, and purpose. The discourse behind the architecture. No wall is just a wall when it comes to the White House. Every color, every texture, every detail tells a story. And, under Trump, architecture has taken on a powerful role. The gold that appears in subtle details, the imposing furniture, the theatrical lighting. Everything communicates a message of strength, abundance, and victory. For Trump, aesthetics are rhetoric. The environment needs to scream what the political discourse promises. And, in that sense, the renovation is not just a physical work. It's a visual manifesto. History shows that architecture has always been a tool of power. Kings erected castles to assert their dominion. Presidents, monuments to immortalize ideals. Trump merely updated the method, transforming columns into hashtags and marble into headlines. He understands that modern politics is as visual as it is ideological, and that the image of a room can say more than 1,000 speeches. It's the use of architecture as propaganda, something many perceive, but few admit. Behind the reforms, there is a clear desire to shape the narrative. Each environment seems to signify, "Here reigns American greatness." But what the public still wonders is, does this greatness belong to the nation or to the man who redesigns it? Perhaps the answer lies precisely in the subtext, in the stylistic choices, in the symbolism hidden in every detail. Because, in the end, Trump is not just building spaces. He is building a memory. And what he wants the world to remember may be more revealing than any official speech. The symbolism of the White House in the Trump era. The White House has always been more than just an address. It's the symbolic heart of the United States, the stage where power is displayed to the world. Under Trump, however, this symbol has gained new layers, some brilliant, others controversial. He transformed what was once an icon of sobriety and diplomacy into a mirror of his own worldview. What once represented stability now exudes movement, ambition, and confrontation. For many, it's an exact reflection of the times we live in, accelerated, polarized, and full of contrasts. Each president, in their own way, shapes the soul of the White House. Roosevelt filled it with hope, Kennedy with glamour, Obama with inclusion. Trump dressed it in spectacle. And perhaps that is the deepest mark of his administration, the theatricalization of power. Everything takes on the tone of a reality show, from foreign policy to the corridors of the presidential residence. With each speech, a scene. With each decision, a performance. The White House ceases to be merely the center of government and becomes the main stage for a global narrative about strength and identity. But there's a paradox in all of this. By making the symbol of power so personal, Trump also weakens it. Because the brilliance that attracts is the same that blinds. The renovated White House may be a reflection of a time when appearance and essence are confused. And perhaps the greatest challenge, when the curtains close, will be to discover what truly remains, the gold of the walls or the weight of history. Legacy or ostentation. History's judgment. Over time, everything that makes headlines today becomes memory. And that's when the real judgment takes place. Decades later, when the shine fades and reforms become part of the scenery, the essential question remains, did Trump want to build a legacy or just his own myth? Some will say he brought boldness and identity to modern politics. Others, that he transformed the presidency into a vanity stage. But history is unforgiving. It doesn't analyze intentions, only results. And in this silent court, every architectural detail becomes a witness. Some see the White House renovation as a symbol of restored power, an attempt to reposition the United States as the epicenter of pride and greatness. For others, it was the culmination of an era in which image mattered more than substance. The truth is that Trump is not just a politician, he is a cultural phenomenon. And phenomena, by nature, divide. His name will be etched into the stones he had polished, the colors he chose, and the controversies he fueled. Time, more than any commentator, will tell what was audacity and what was exaggeration. In the end, perhaps that's the greatest irony. The White House itself, a symbol of the Republic, has become a mirror of a man who has always lived between applause and scandal. And the world, watching from a distance, will continue to wonder, did Trump leave his mark on the White House, or did the White House leave its mark on him? Because, in politics, legacy is never just what is built, but what is transformed after the builder is gone. In the end, the White House renovation is more than just a facade change. It's a reflection of something much bigger happening behind the scenes of the world. Symbols are being redesigned, alliances are shifting, and the global chessboard seems to be moving with a precision that few perceive. While some see luxury, others see signs. Because every time power decides to reinvent itself, history is about to take a turn. And this time, perhaps the next chapter will involve not just politics, but a conflict of global proportions. Have you noticed how many signs are emerging around us? Wars being rehearsed, economies strained, leaders talking about peace while reinforcing their arsenals? Coincidence? Perhaps not. The truth is that there are movements happening behind the scenes, and understanding these signs can be the difference between being caught off guard or being prepared. Therefore, if you want to understand what's really behind these changes and discover the signs of the coming war which have already started to appear, access now the exclusive ebook, Signs of the Coming War. There you will find analyses, prophetic events, and interpretations that connect the current scenario to something much larger. Download now, delve into the intricacies of power, and see what the future may be about to reveal. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep up with content that the world prefers you don't understand so quickly.